the India Business Literature Festival, where business meets wisdom. And I'm joined by Mr. Jayadev Ranade. Sir, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ranade is the president of the Center for China Analysis and Strategy, and he's going to talk to us about some of the aspects that he has covered in his book, Strategic Challenges for India in 2030. And sir, you know, the past year we've seen a lot of geopolitical happening. Most importantly, the way things have unfolded in Eastern Europe between Russia and Ukraine. Give us a sense of the current geopolitics with respect to India, how they have shaped up in the year ahead, and what's the path looking for India in the year ahead until 2030.
I would say that's why we wrote the book,
Right.
actually. It is, we are going into a difficult period. I think over the last year, particularly,
Right.
we've seen an acceleration of the process of change of the global world order. Putin accelerated it by launching his special operation, as he called it, the invasion of Ukraine, and that has had an effect everywhere.
Right.
For India particularly, why we are interested in the outcome of the Ukraine war is what shape Russia emerges out of this. Is it going to be weakened or not?
Right.
We are seeing the West applying sanctions on Russia,
True.
which in my assessment is going to weaken it, because the technology sanctions are going to hurt it, and that could make it more dependent on China, which is not good news for us, because our relationship with China, as you know, is not very good. And the way I see it, the manner in which the Chinese are approaching it, it's not going to improve for a long time. The problems are quite serious
Right.
and quite long term. So for us in this interregnum, and that's how I choose to look at it, where the global world order is being reset, we have to find a place for ourselves in this. And I think we have to be deft in the way we manage our relationships with other big powers. If I may put it very bluntly, choose the winning side,
Right.
or at least carve out a niche for ourselves where we are in an unassailable position. And I think we can do it. We are heading towards it. And if I may just digress a bit and say that, you know, the idea of putting all this down and looking at the challenges from different perspectives is to give us an idea of A, the scope of the challenges, and secondly, what we should be doing to tackle them.
Right.
We haven't discussed the second part of the book about how to tackle them, but that's apparent when you look at it. But I would say that the world that we are in is going through a turbulent phase,
Okay.
and that should be worrying for all of us.
Okay. So how do you see the Russia-China axis in terms of with regards to India? I mean, as you mentioned that we have to choose sides. Now, if you look at the previous year, when it comes, let's say for example, when it came to oil, we, as foreign minister said, that we'll prioritize Indian consumers' interest. And you know, there were some sort of synergies, this one example. But at large, if you see the image that's happening, how do you see this China-Russia axis and the India in equation with all of this?
Well, very boldly,
Right.
China and Russia coming closer together in an equation where Russia is dependent on China and has little voice is not good news for us. If Russia is still capable, it's still strong enough, and we are able to maintain our relationship with Russia, then of course it's good for us, because there are a lot of resources that Russia has. It's a huge country after all, it's very large, and we can have a mutually beneficial relationship. But our problem is if Russia weakens beyond a point, and that's what our concern is. With China, I don't see the relationship improving, as I said. And if we look at a couple of international organizations that the Chinese have tried to set up with Russian involvement, I think it makes for an interesting picture. We look at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO. We joined it some years ago. Russia, I think at that point in time, was glad that we joined it because it gave it more balance in that organization, which is the Chinese-led organization.
Right.
But today, even if you look at the YouTube photographs of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meetings, you see China sitting on the high chair and Russia literally in a subordinate position. Of course, the Chinese economy overwhelms that of all the other members.
Right.
So they have an edge. But this kind of a setting is not very good. And that is why, as a country, we've been arguing that perhaps the US and the West needs to cut Russia some slack and focus on the real challenge, which is not Moscow, but Beijing.
Right. Now, in this book, you've mentioned a particular very interesting word to describe India-US relations, and that is India's hesitant embrace of the United States. Now, when we are talking about the Russia-China axis, and when we are looking at the developments that have been happening by the US to tackle China's influence in the Indo-Pacific region or the Asia at large, how do you describe this word hesitant embrace, India's hesitant embrace for US?
I'm not going to give you an easy answer, but let us put it like this, that what do we as a country need at this stage of our development? We need large sums of capital investment, we need high technology, and we need diplomatic influence to augment our own. And the United States, all three. No other country has it. Today, the US is looking to partner us. We have been looking to partner them for mutual advantage. There is no, one side which gets everything. But we have a mutual concern, and that concern is China for different reasons. So, if we put that in the background and then we look at our own internal dynamics, and that is where the hesitant comes in. Traditionally, we have been wary of coming too close to the United States. One is the experience in the past, and the second is, if I may put it, a certain category of people, a certain political affiliation, which looks on the West as something which is to be avoided. And I think that hesitation still remains. Mind you, most of them send their kids to the US to study. But there is that hesitation, and that is why I use that phrase. The second thing is the US doesn't believe in a partner or an ally. It has a junior partner. And I don't see India with its size and its own geopolitical position or geostrategic position willing to be a junior partner. So these are the factors that come in, make us hesitant. And our economy is not of that size that we can compete with it directly. But given time, I think we will get that kind of assurance that we need over the next few years, depending, as you said, on how the situation in the Indo-Pacific evolves.
Right. And now let me talk about the technology aspect, the strategic challenges when it comes to technology. You've talked a lot about aerospace, military technology, but we're talking about cybersecurity as well. And in the past we saw some instances of China, attacking our critical infrastructure. How do you see technology being used, to disrupt India's vision or as a strategic challenge?
Technology is the future. In fact, it's the present and the future. And the speed with which it is evolving makes it difficult for everyone to keep up with the latest. For us, certainly. I think we need a lot more investment in it. And as far as, we are caught in a bit of a difficult situation here. On the one hand, our government is moving rapidly towards digitalization, which makes life easier. We are trying to deliver services to the people quicker through a digital thing. We are trying to switch to a digital economy as fast as possible. A lot of progress has taken place. But while we are doing that, we are also making ourselves increasingly vulnerable. And there are two reasons for this. One, it means a bit of retrospective, this thing, is we didn't develop a cyber policy. We didn't develop our hardware capabilities. So while we have very good programmers, we have very good software designers, of course the best are probably abroad, but whatever it is, we didn't develop the hardware. So for routers, computers, etc., we have to get it from the Chinese or from wherever else. We have gone for China because it is the cheapest option. But without factoring in, and this is where I talked about a policy, without factoring in the fact that our relations with China are not good. They have not been good for some years. And yet we went in and took it from them. Now, technology, and if we look at telecommunications technology in the larger context, is probably the most critical area. I'll give you two quick examples. One, you have a mobile phone, I'm sure, we all do, so do I. Now, if the Chinese want to monitor us, they can easily do so without really intrusion just through your cyber phones or through your mobile phones, everyone's. Similarly, if they want to cripple us or isolate us, they can do that. Now, everyone today, whether he's a senior military officer, whether he's a politician or a leader or a civil administrator, is using a mobile phone. If there is a calamity, his first reaction is to call whoever the control is on the mobile phone. Right. Now, if a person is listening, he knows it. Now, suppose the Chinese want to cripple it. They just immobilize your systems. True. So, this is the kind of criticality that comes in. Right. Similarly, on cyber, when a lot of work is now being done on computers. If they want to monitor us, and rest assured they are monitoring us, they can also cripple us. And what we saw recently, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, earlier to the Gangaram Hospital and others, you can imagine, just let your imagination run wild, who are all the people going to those hospitals for treatment? A lot of your senior leadership goes there.
Absolutely.
And getting to know the state of health of the senior leadership, and I'm giving you just a small example, is something which people are keen on doing.
Right. So, Mr. Ranade, can we expect a next book? I mean, you mentioned that we have laid out these strategy challenges, but we have not talked about how to tackle them. So, can the next book be on tackling them?
We'll have to think about it, because if we do pen it, right, we'll be giving the other side ideas about how we are thinking. But the point is, in this book, you will find that most of the people are people who have specialized in certain areas and who have come in. So, we've dealt with science and technology, in fact, in 2 chapters, because it's a very important area. We've dealt with all the other challenges. And something we are thinking of, but I don't know whether we'll get around to it. But you've given a good idea, why not?
Mr. Ranade, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much, Anurag.
For clearly laying out as to where India stands in the current geopolitical situation and the strategic challenges that lies for the country in the year ahead and beyond till 2030. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you very much.